Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games.
Cut.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked. And Brad and I are continuing our top 100 games of all time. Uh, we are almost through with this first half. This one, then one more, and then we are really off to the races. Um, we can start talking about games that rose, then it'll make us feel better.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. So last time, this is our, what is it? One, two, three. This is our fourth video. So that would mean that
Yeah.
the information that I have, so the stats, um, yeah, for 2021, that again, this really doesn't do like a whole lot, but I still find it kind of fascinating, uh, is that I had 42 cooperative games in 2021 and then 59 competitive. So from 2021 and then 2022, I had the most competitive games. Um, and then like last year had the most cooperative games. So
Yeah, I didn't
that's
I didn't do any of those numbers like that, but I would have to say mine would probably lean much more cooperative since I play solo a lot
oh
and
yeah.
stuff. But
Yeah,
there's a
that
lot.
actually would be kind of interesting is
Yeah.
if it's easier to play cooperative games. I mean, it obviously is, but you're going to get a more dynamic
Hmm.
competitive solo variant.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing I will have after these, because I only went back to 2020, but after that, I think I'm gonna look and see how many new games fell.
Hmm.
Like, oh hey, it was new to the list, and then where it was at the next year.
Right.
Um, so I'll probably take a look at that. But anyway, that will be for next time. This time we are going to be talking about 70 through 61, which for this segment I have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I have one, two, three, four, five, six. So seven that fell, two that rose, and one new one.
See, I thought mine was gonna be bad. Yours is worse than mine. I had two new ones, two that rose, and six that fell. And the ones that fell a decent clip. Like they weren't like big fall, or they
Oh,
weren't like
really?
little falls. They were like 30, 20, 30 some spots.
Mine actually, the ones that rose actually rose significantly, but
Yeah.
the ones that fell were actually not too bad in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
Um, but speaking of which, my number 70 was 68 last year. So as you can see, it clearly didn't fall that much. Um, but it was 154 the year before. So it was like not even close to the list, shot way up and then kind of hovered in the middle. Um, and I don't know if you've played this game yet, but this game is kind of part of a series from Plaid Hat that has just been amazing since I started doing it again. And that is boom, Forgotten Waters.
No.
So this is their new Crossroads system, similar to, so there's this one, Freelancers, and Wandering Galaxy. And Wandering Galaxy is brand new, and I haven't had a chance to try it because they don't have the app finished.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't understand why they would do that. Be like, oh, you got your game. Oh, can I play it? No. Like, oh, okay. I would have just rather waited. But uh so years and years ago, in better times when uh things were just amazing, they released, I was gonna say Dead Cells, Dead of Winter that incorporated this crossroad system. That was this deck of cards that had a trigger on them. Everyone's turn, the person to their left or whatever would draw a card and they would have a trigger. And if during someone's turn they activated that, then like the game would pause and an event would happen. Um, and that was amazing. And then like no game had ever done that before. No game since has ever done that before. And then they went and got bought out by Asmodee, um, who then I think made them make Gen 7. And that game was hot shit. Like it was so bad. Then they kind of finally got their ownership back and they came out with Forgotten Waters, which is just amazing. And all of these games incorporate the similar idea in terms of gameplay. There's really not much to it, but you pick a scenario and then you go to various sections on this board. Um, and you just kind of on that round just pick an action you want to do. Uh, and then once everyone goes to a certain action, you go from top down and then you do it, and then some story thing would happen. Um, but what makes this game just sing is the voice acting and the writing. It's genuinely hilarious. And if you're really into pirates, like it's extremely creative, like it's like mystical pirates is really what it's about. And everyone is members of a crew. It's like semi-cooperative, like you are kind of competing against one another, but you have your own character sheet that increases in stats, and then you answer questions at the beginning of the game, Mad Lib style. So then whenever you're having to read stuff off your character stuff, it'll bring in the Mad Lib element that makes it even more funny. So I just genuinely enjoy this. So it is kind of weird though, because freelancers, which is their D&D one, uh I mean they're virtually the same game, but I'll have both of them on this list. Spoiler, I like freelancers better because I like that theme more. But it is kind of weird that it's like, oh, it's still the same. So I don't know if I should combine them in the future. It's like, huh, do you like pirates or do you like fantasy? Because they virtually play the same. I mean, in the D&D one, there's like a quest sheet that you go up on, but in here you have your pirate board that you're moving around. And then the Wandering Galaxy, I haven't looked too much into, but it looks to be a little bit more involved mechanically. But other than that, if you're wanting, and these games aren't short, like every scenario is pretty long. But the voice actors that they get for it is some of them are pretty high profile names. I know in the freelancers they have, um, oh God, is it Chris Sabat? I think that's his name. The guy who voices the English dub for Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z. So somehow they're pulling, I think, pretty big names in terms of voice acting. I know ProZD does voice acting for their apps, um, which he's a pretty big YouTuber, huge board game fan. Um, but yeah, like the scenarios are long, but you're gonna have an awesome adventure that's not campaign style, which is great. So that's it. That's my number 70, Forgotten Waters.
Yeah, I haven't played any of the crossword games since Dead of Winter. Just
Really? I
because
figured one of the Chads would have this, and Rogue. I know Denton does for sure.
they
And
may, I just never gotten it played or anything.
wow.
I've always thought about getting these, but they would not be really that conducive solo, I don't think. And
No, and unfortunately they're not really great. Um, like this one for sure, 2 or 3 player. You have to incorporate like weird rules.
yeah, so that's why I've kind of stayed away from them. I've been kind of seeing if they go back, but yeah, Dead of Winter is the only one I've ever played of that series. So we'll see how
Gotcha.
it goes. All right. So my number 70 is new to my list. I think you finally have gotten this played, uh, maybe a few weeks ago. Um, this is by a designer that I've started really paying attention to his stuff um, ever since we played another game of his that you taught me back in the day, and that is Windmill Valley.
Nice.
Barcelona being that other game that we're talking about, because that was the first Danny Garcia game I'd ever played.
Yeah.
Um, and then he's come out with this. He's got his hands in a few others now. Um, but but yeah, this one again, it seems like most of his games are just they really do a good job of making them look outstanding. You know,
Hmm.
they're really colorful and they pop and all that stuff. This one's theme is also unique because this one you're pretty much you're a tulip farmer. I mean, pretty for all intents and purposes, that's what you do. Um,
Yeah.
you're and you just it has that interesting mechanic with with the cogs and stuff for action selection and stuff that's really neat. There's a bunch of different actions you can do. You can plant tulips in your field and try to fill that up and do stuff. You can hire people to do stuff. You can there's in-game scoring things that you can get. I think they're called contracts.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
stuff like yeah, and that you can build windmills to go out on the board, as you can see in that picture. It's just a really cool deal. And so far, every game I've played from him, which, mind you, has not been a ton because he doesn't have a ton out, has been unique. And there's a lot of ways to score. Barcelona, especially. But spoiler alert, we'll talk about that one down the road. But yeah, this one just really, I bought it because it was Danny Garcia, and then I was happy that it turned out to be as fun of a game as it is, because I love that action mechanic deal with the cogs and and all that stuff. That's just a really neat mechanic that I've found that I enjoy.
Yeah, and the fact that you can upgrade your cogs,
yes,
like, which is super awesome. I did finally get this played.
What do you think about it?
I really liked it. I think I know that they're actually releasing an expansion this year, for it, and it looks to be just like a small box expansion, which I'm perfectly fine with. Um, I think one thing about this one that I didn't love was that you're kind of able to do everything, and
Yeah,
that's a very tricky situation with a Euro game for me. Is I don't want the game to be too tight, but I also don't want to sit there and be like, oh, I was able to do everything I wanted the entire game, you know?
right.
So
Yeah,
I like that. In Euro games, I like whenever I have to pick a path and kind of be like, let me try this strategy and see if it works. Um, but this game is actually relatively short, which I found,
yeah. It's quick
because it's only
turns.
yeah. So even though you're able to kind of do everything, the game's over pretty quick. So it doesn't really just stew on you that you're just like, okay, I got 300 points my first game, you know.
Right.
But other than that,
Yep.
I think it's great. I think the windmill section, um, is pretty fascinating because you build your trail off of where other people's windmills are, but you give them points if you kind of like, because you have to like go back to the market.
Right.
Um, yeah, I thought it was great, and I'm excited for the little expansion.
It seems to be what his games do, because the Barcelona expansion was just a little box expansion too.
Hmm.
So it's just like they're just throwing in a few little tidbits
Yeah,
here and there. They fit in the
which
box generally and
yeah,
stuff. So
which
yeah,
I'm not upset by.
yeah, yep. So that's my number 70, Windmill Valley.
Nice. All right. My number 69 fell a little bit. It was 65 last year and it was 40 the year before. So again, just fell I mean, it's basically the same spot. Um and this was on your list a segment or two back, uh where, let's see, do I have the other version? I don't know if I do. I think I definitely talked about yeah, I did talk about its competitor a segment or two ago. And this one I think just overall has it just has more content to it, and that is Chronicles of Crime.
Yeah, that was my 92.
Okay. Yeah, and then Detective Modern Crime board game was 85. Even though I think the overall aesthetic and vibe of Detective Modern Crime board game is better, this one just got the support and way better support than Detective Modern Crime did. So like we were talking about with yours, it is a VR kind of inspired um whodunit, murder mystery kind of game where you utilize these QR codes to interact with people. Um and man, everyone just looks grotesque. I don't know who this artist is, but it's like that kid, it's like she did it. What about that
Yeah,
person? Yep. Okay, maybe they're all in on it. They all they
he died. Oh well, we can just brush it under the rug. It's fine.
right. It's like no real loss there. And there's like at the very top, there's the meth addict who is always the culprit, even though when he's not, he's probably like he's like the person who's mentally unwell who's actually the victim, but it's like,
Yeah.
nah, man, you did it. Uh, but they just do every scenario so well. I love the time factor that's kept in the app, where if it's like, hey, we're gonna go talk to this person, or this person's here at the park at noon, but then you're like, all right, we're gonna come back, and you go visit other locations, and the time is ticking, and then like it's like, oh, it was noon, now it's 5 p.m., and you go back to the park. Well, that person won't be there anymore. They might not be there. It's like, yeah, they left. And they're like, okay, I guess the detectives aren't coming back. I think that's an element that is not done in anything else, which makes the world feel alive. It's like, all right, we'll try tomorrow, or maybe we'll go to his house. We know where he lives, and you can go to there, and you can go to his apartment, and he's there. I think that that is just such an awesome element. So I think the way that you mentioned with the VR would be really cool to,
Put on
yeah,
a TV.
yeah, put on a TV so that one person's moving, but everyone gets to take a look instead of the weird, like, oh, do you want someone else to? And you hand them your phone.
Hmm.
So, but that shit is just so cool where you put those those glasses there on your phone and get to look through it. That's just really high tech stuff. High tech for a board game. Just something you would never, I mean, to this day still haven't anything, nothing's released anything close to something like that.
Right.
And maybe for a good reason, maybe it didn't do that well, or maybe it was super expensive, but I think I counted how many scenarios there
You
are,
did.
and
Yeah.
there's like 30 something, which is, I mean, I could do one that I've done before, and I have done that for Sherlock Holmes, and I'd probably be like, it'd be brand new just because I don't retain that information.
Yeah.
So really awesome cooperative whodunit, and yeah, it'll probably settle around here, I think.
Probably. Yeah. Because I think they're done making stuff for it. So
I think so. I mean,
yeah.
they're putting probably all their effort into Dark Quarter.
That and
So,
the other one, God's Grave.
oh yeah, that is both of,
Something like
yeah, that
that.
is Lucky
Yeah.
Duck. So here's
Yep.
hoping. Here's hoping. I mean, I'm really hoping Dark Quarter is like this, but with Van Ryder writing.
Be awesome, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
So we'll see. But yeah,
Yep.
that's my 69 Chronicles of Crime.
All right. My number 69 fell, and it fell because it hasn't been played this year.
Is it because it
Uh,
sucks?
no, no, no. I really enjoy this game. It just fell because of just lack of getting it to the table. Um, and I just actually picked up the big box version of this to get the expansion. So I'm sure
It's
it's going to get
Alhambra again.
no, no. This was 35 last year, so it did drop quite a bit. It'll probably bounce right back up after I get it played again to get the expansions done. You weren't super high on this game. I don't think you hated it, but you weren't super high on it. And that is Merlin.
Oh yeah.
Um, this one just really scratches the right itch for me. It is a Steppenfeld. I mean, it's points all over the place. But what's cool about this is you're going to have a set of dice, and you will roll these dice, and then so you're going to have your color of dice and then a white die. So you use that. There's a rondel in the middle with all these different actions, and you'll move your knight of your color. You'll choose a dice on your turn, whether it's 3 or 4. You move those spots. You do the action on the rondel, and they're always going clockwise. The white dice goes for Merlin, which is the white pawn that's in the middle, and you can move it either counterclockwise or clockwise, with whatever the value of that white die is. So you have a little bit more variation with him. That kind of screws people though, because you can't be on the same spot of another person. So when people are using different dice, you have to leap them or do different stuff. But it's broken up in those 6 different zones, and those are each different colors. So some of the actions let you put kind of control in there. So there's a little bit of area control that you can get the flag, which you can spin to do stuff. You get those little shields that go in your the dashboard's kind of hard to see, but like your dashboard, there's these little notches, And at the beginning of a turn, there's going to be these barbarians that you draw that take a spot, and you have to try to get those defended, or else you will, lose stuff if you don't get them defended. So you have to try to get the shields to put underneath them for when that phase of the game takes place. There is a little bit of dice manipulation by getting those apples. And then there's ways like you can get the Grail, let you do something, or Excalibur lets you do something. There are these little standees that you can do. This one, I love the base game of this, but like I said, it just hasn't been played for a while. And then there's those expansions, the Morgana, Knights of the Round Table, Arthur expansion. Those are the main three that the stuff that come in that big box. So I'm interested to see how that stuff changes it up, because I know there were certain complaints you had about this game.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that those things will fix it, because I know the dice manipulation was a little tricky for you.
that was the one I didn't like, and it's funny because this, let me just double check. I'm almost a million. Castles of Burgundy was by him, right?
Stefan
Feld. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I was sitting here and I was like, why do I love Castles of Burgundy? But that's basically you roll what you get,
But
or
it's
you
not
get what
that.
you
The whole
roll.
Rondell thing's what screws a lot of it
I
up.
think that's what it is
Yeah.
that whenever I roll my dice in Castle of Burgundy, there's one, you have two dice. I mean, you have two dice here, I guess, but it's
You
like,
have
okay,
three, and then the white one.
yeah. And then you just have the little workers that let you tick your dice up or down. But I think it's because you have so many options, like where you want to go in castles, so it just kind of is a little easier to swallow. But here it's kind of like, well, I need hyper specific sections that I want to get to for my strategy, but I'm just not rolling anything. And I think it's harder to get those apples than it is to get the little servants or whatever they're called in Castles of Burgundy. But it's also been just so long since I played this that um I mean I'd be interested to give it a shot with the like one just a base game, but then also with the expansions.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the expansions change it too. But yeah, I mean, this one, I never really got into Feld a whole lot, but this was one of the ones that really started pushing me along, and then I've started getting into more Felds
Hmm.
after that and stuff. But yeah, this one's a fun one.
Nice. All right. Well, my number 68 is a game that I think I've just kept praising, and you haven't had a chance to play it yet. But I think you might have backed the new expansion to get the new stuff. It was 54 last year, which is also kind of interesting because I've played this recently. So there's something about last year where playing the game didn't really help certain games because I've played this. I played it in the same time I played Yido, which also fell. Um, yeah. Oh no, Yido did rise, but not as much. Uh, and then there were a few others that I had played that had fallen. But this one is
Mm.
Darwin's Journey, which is again Simone Luciani, who is just a phenomenal designer. Um, the same guy who did Nucleum and what else was he in?
He's
He
done
was
so
was
much. I mean, he's
yeah.
he's just a good
Uh,
designer.
he really is. Like he's kind of like right up there for Euro designers. And this one just has so much going on with within like the game that it's just but it doesn't feel overwhelming. Um I mean it's your worker placement. You have different types of workers that actually get stronger, stronger that as the game goes on because you get like these seals, these wax seals, which you can actually like if you have the deluxe components are like rubber um that are they you eventually will level up that allow them to go to other locations um to be able to do stronger actions. Um but the various locations that you're going to are allowing you to either move your ship to keep up with the Darwins, I think Bugle is what it's called, um, or wander the islands to be able to get these, to get extra actions or extra set collection to be able to go and contribute it to the museum to get a huge multiplier in that section as well. But you're also given these cards at the very beginning of the game that are supposed to represent your workers, and they want a certain number of seals and a certain type of seals that if you complete those, then you get a huge bonus, and that's supposed to represent who that person is. Um, it's just a really unique worker placement game because also whenever you're going to action spots, one, you can eventually unlock some, which use these, I think they're called like eyeglass tokens that unlock more worker placement spots that are easier for you to go to and harder for others. But the more, depending on number of players, if you want to go to a action section and someone else is already there, you kind of have to pay more money. And depending on number of players, like up at the top left, there are these books. And in like a two-player game, like the top left, those top two spots are like the same section. So if there are multiple people on that one book, it costs more money to do. But then with more players, there's like bookmarks that separate those, so it's not as egregious into how much money you need. So money is a huge factor. Turn order is a huge factor. You can get the silver or gold, uh, like end of game scoring tokens, which is just always awesome to try and go for. So there's a lot that goes into this, and this is all just base game. In the version that I have, there's a lot of mini expansions as well as other bigger expansions, which I haven't even tried because it's so weird with these types of games because I think it's called Fire Island. Um,
Yeah, I think you're right.
and I want to try those, but typically it's yeah, a
Yeah, okay.
Fireland expansion. I haven't tried that because every time I'm trying to play this game, I'm teaching someone new.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, we played that. Yeah, that was fun. And then we, move on to a different game. So one of these days I'll try out the bigger expansions, but they just announced a new one, a new expansion. I think it's the Oceania expansion. And I'm excited to give that a shot whenever that comes in. But yeah, this one's a really awesome, super solid worker placement game.
Yeah, it's definitely intriguing. All right. So my number 68 is another one that fell for the same reason Merlin did, just because I haven't played it a whole lot. Um, it did have come out with a solo expansion for it. I just haven't played that a whole lot and really to get it to the table. This is one of those games that everybody talked up for a long time, and I just never tried it because the box cover kept me away from it for one reason or another. And that is
Oh,
Concordia. This one ended up after I finally got it played, turning into as boring of a theme as it looks, and it doesn't look like much on the table. It's still mechanically, I just love this game, how it plays out. I wish I could get it played more. But
yeah,
this one, I mean,
it's
because
solid.
there's tons of maps out for it. So I mean, you can, double-sided maps you can play with doing different stuff. But pretty much what you're doing in this one is this takes place in ancient Rome time, like 2,000 years ago, something like that. And what's cool about this is everybody starts the game with the same deck of cards, and they all have an action on it and different stuff. So, and then there's going to be cards that will be up on that top part of the board that you can buy to add into your uh, deck and stuff. But what's cool is so there you got to do economic routes. You're buying goods. You have to keep track of all those goods. There's limited amount of space on your boards for goods as well. But once you play a card, it's played until you play that one card that lets you take everything back in your hand. It's almost kind of like a rest turn or something like that.
Hmm.
But you are kind of building all that stuff out like that, and the game ends when either the last card has been purchased out of that little deck of purchase cards, or somebody places their 15th house token
Yeah.
or meeple. But it like I said, it looks kind of boring, but for some reason that card play really makes the game enjoyable for me, at least, because I love that kind of, you're playing your actions out in your hand and then you have to get them back. You can only use them that one time unless you have other. There's weird cards that you can buy that let you do certain things as you go.
Yeah, and the scoring was really unique with how
Yeah,
this one was done.
yeah, depending on what god was your cards that you bought and what you have in your deck, like there's the Jupiter cards, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's all the scoring from that. The Solitaria expansion lets you play any of the maps solo.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't experienced them a ton. I need to, just to get this game to the table more, but it's a pretty good. They do a pretty good job with that. The
Yeah.
AI with it.
I, I ended up giving this was like a 7 for me, which is still good. Like if anyone were to ask me to play Concordia, I would happily jump in. Um, but I think it was around this time that I started kind of like really being hyper specific around Euro
Mm-hmm.
games. Like
Right.
it's funny, I've really picked up as we've been doing this top 100 this time around. Whenever either you or I are bringing up Concordia, it's like it feels like we're almost saying the same thing. Oh, you get resources, and it's like, oh, and then you play cards, and it's like it sounds like we're being reductive on these games, but we're not. It's just that they all center around doing the same thing. Yeah, obviously you need resources, but
Right.
and they are all different in how you do stuff, but it's weird to describe Euro games because this sounds like, oh, it's just any generic Euro.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and like and this was just one of those for you. I mean, so many people talked this game up for ages,
yeah,
and I just was like, man, it just looks boring as hell. And then finally,
yeah,
somebody made me sit down and play it, and I was like, holy crap! And those expansions, like the Venus expansion's nice. I think I pretty much have all the board game content expansions. I don't have all the maps yet,
yeah.
but because the Salsa expansion added some stuff and stuff like that. But
Well, it seems like the Venus expansion, from what I'm seeing, re-implemented the game.
well, it's you can play it standalone or you can
Okay,
combine crap into it. There's it just changed it up a little bit.
gotcha.
But like you said, you can still incorporate everything. It's still together
Okay,
and stuff. But yeah, but no, this one, if you like, the term is dry Euro. Like this one's almost a must play if you're
yeah.
a fan of these kind of things, just because it's outstanding.
It is.
Matt Gertz.
It is definitely the card play for this game that kind of make it stand out because the way the cards that you're going to be buying are gonna are gonna like streamline your strategy and but you can't just buy cards for their action because you have to look at what god is at the bottom because if you're like, man, I'm able to do what I want, but then at the end of the game you are spread too thin on your gods, then you're not getting a huge multiplier for your victory points at
Right,
the end. So
exactly.
that's a really cool balance.
Yes. Yep.
So
I
this
agree.
is a good game though.
All
All
right.
right. Now we're going from your good game to my great game, even though, yeah, 67. It was 59 last year, but 66 the year before. So it was hovering right in the middle. Um, and this one, thank God, got a ton of support because I think if it hadn't, then this probably would have fallen off, but they've kept it relevant this entire time. And that is The Lost Ruins of Arnak, which I think was a game that you had brought up whenever so many people were talking about it. This was around the Dune Imperium
Yes.
like conversation of which one was better. I've always said this one was better, but I apparently the new Dune Imperium is like leagues above the one that I didn't really like. So I'm like, oh, interesting. I kind of want to give that a shot because apparently no one talks about the Dune Imperium that I have only played, and it's
Mhm.
the new one. But both of those games centered of a combination of worker placement and deck building. And this one just did, I don't know, it was way more thematic. It utilized a really cool two different types of cards of items and relics, but how both of those worked within your deck was really interesting. Um, and then the balance of the worker placement, where you only had two workers to go and either defeat guardians, scout new locations, get you resources, just that sense of exploration in what is a deck builder at the end of the day or just really encapsulated that Indiana Jones feel.
Yeah.
So
Oh, sorry.
whenever you're deck, huh?
I was just going to say that one of the things about this is cool too is the monsters aren't punishing. Like
Uh
if you can't defeat the monster, you don't like. I mean, you do get a little bit. It's not like detrimental.
oh right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like you're yeah, oh I guess I'll reset. Yeah, and you're rewarded for actually defeating them. If you defeat
Mhm.
them, then they give you a free action. And that's what makes this game awesome as well, is you get a bunch of free actions in your turn. So there are some items that are just free actions to do. And then, so what's cool is that as the game is going on, you're given a bunch of items, and these items are your typical like they give you ways to move, because they have movement symbols on them, but they also have their effects on them. But as the game goes on, each round, less and less items are becoming available and more relics, and that's thematically you're discovering more on this island that you're at, which I thought was cool. But whenever you buy items, they just go into your deck. But when you buy relics, you actually get to utilize them when you buy them. But then whenever they come back through your deck, you have to have stone tablets to activate them again. And I think they mention it is that like it was charged with mystical power and you activated it when you found it, and then you have to figure out ways to activate it again. I always thought that that was a really cool thematic tie-in. But then you have um your whatever the track is. I can't remember what the that your where
Um,
you have your journal and your
research. It was
Mac
the research track.
research track.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who were trying to like shit on this game would like, oh, it's like all you're doing is going up the track. It's like, yeah. I mean, everything around the game centers on you going up that track, which thematically makes sense. But what they've done with expansions is they've released more and more research tracks that all have different effects and gimmicks around them. Um, but then what made this game really kind of like shoot up for me was the first expansion they released was the Expedition Leaders expansion that gave everyone individual player powers. And those player powers are 100% asymmetric and unique and just so awesome, especially with like their other expansion that brought in the campaign.
Yes.
Those leaders are super, super cool, but I think the abilities on all of them are really awesome and completely feel different from one another. So they've done a really great job supporting this game. And every expansion I thought that they've added has been awesome. But yeah, it does that deck building worker placement combination like flawlessly, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. This one we'll probably talk about here in a segment or two, probably.
Nice.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, I'm curious what they're gonna do next. I really want a storage solution because it's my box is like full. It's like I
I'll
have
look
no
and
more
see if
room.
there's a 3D print one. Oh,
I'm sure there is.
I'm
Um,
sure.
but as far as man, I thought they were releasing a new expansion,
Well, what was
but
cool with this is when the base game came out initially, they had it, but then shortly after that, they came out with a free solo campaign just on their website. It was just like they just came out with a campaign on their website for solo players. And I was just
oh,
like,
that's
well,
right. Yeah,
I
they
was like, that's
did.
pretty damn cool. Like they could have, it was just neat to have that, they just kind of threw it in. Because I think that came out, didn't this come out around COVID time? So that I think they kind of did that for like people that were stuck at home playing there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2020.
So it's just kind of a neat little thing that they did. This is kind of CGE's, well, one of their big home runs, but this one's
Yeah.
kind of their recent memory big hits.
Yeah, so I guess revealed at the World Series of Board Game in 2024, there is a storage solution for it in both expansions, and it
Oh,
comes with a new double-sided board for
okay,
research
well, I
track.
won't print anything then.
Yeah, so I don't know when like when this is being released, but I guess it was the prototype that was shown.
Gotcha. All right,
So
all right, good choice.
thank
Talk
you.
about it later at some point. All right, my number 67 was my big fall from this time, and it's definitely because I haven't played it. And this also goes back with what you had talked about. I'm wondering how like new games would kind of fall because this
Hmm.
was this was I think new to my list last year. I want to say maybe the year before, but it's just one of those that were kind of really hot, and it's actually super high in BGG right now. Possibly like number 4 on BGG or something like that. And that is Arc Nova.
Oh wow.
Um,
Yeah.
this one, I love the gameplay of this. It's super in depth, um, but it's one of those that I really only want to play solo or with one other person because it's such a
Hmm.
long game. And I have not touched the expansion yet.
Oh wow.
So I have it. I just haven't played it. I haven't played this game this year, so that's why it
Yeah.
made this big dip. Um, but I mean, this game is awesome as hell. I love the action selection. So I'm just talking about the base game. So I know that expansion changes some stuff,
Hmm.
but I love that whole action choosing. So deal with your cards, the deal, and how they have to like fall down the list,
Yeah.
and stuff. That's just was ingenious. I thought when
Look
doing
at
this game,
how
there's just
look at how
so
busy this game
much.
looks, and this is just 2 players.
Yeah, it is just is it is it
Yeah.
3? It's 3 player,
Oh
isn't it?
no, it is three
Yeah,
players.
yeah, yeah. But still, it's just nuts how crazy it is, and I like the puzzle of building your enclosures. Um, there's just so many options in this game, and it's such a deep game. Whether it should be the 4th greatest game of all time, I don't know.
It's
Like on
actually
BGG,
three.
oh, it's 3
Number
now.
three.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, um, but it's definitely up there. I mean, it deserves the hype it gets because it's an outstanding game. It's just,
Hmm.
and I know the expansion would fix some of the issues I had because, like we talked about this before, how that the animal deck is so damn big, and you would spend turns just not getting what you needed, if
Yeah.
you were trying to do stuff. And
Because
and I yeah, go ahead.
yeah, you'd have like sponsors that are like, "Ooh, get victory points for every small creature you have," but all you have are large ones, and it's like, okay. So, yeah, the expansion introduces an icon that if that's like released, it filters through that deck a lot. Which is a good and bad thing because if there's stuff on that track that you want, but you don't get the chance to actually grab it because it's just like being discarded, that's also kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think overall the balance works because
Uh-huh.
otherwise, yeah, that deck is just huge
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
any other type of like frustration of what you're needing.
Yeah. The thing I think that is the hardest for people to wrap their heads around this is the scoring, and that's
Yeah.
the first thing everybody goes to because it's like the first game you play of this, I mean, you almost have to play a game and get totally hosed by it
Yeah.
to understand how it works and to see somebody that does it because you have these 2 different tracks you're working from opposite sides of the scoring, and once they cross, that signals in game.
Hmm.
um, but it's how far away they cross past each other is how many points you get. So it's
Yeah.
very, very common to have negative points, or you may win with 4 points. I mean, it just
Hmm.
depends on your group and how you're doing. But that's the hardest thing to teach people with this game and it's such a long game, and that's one of the problems with this game. Really, is like you you need to play a couple, at least once to learn it, and then another. But the game is so damn long if you play. I when that game I played when I taught the Chads and those guys, I played a full
Yeah.
player game, and my
Oh
God,
God.
My God. There's AP in that group anyway.
Yeah.
So, but Jesus, it was such a long game. And playing it two players is probably the best because you get that interaction. The solo for this is good.
I mean, but you don't even really get the interaction. Like the interaction in this game make no sense because there's some creatures that give like tokens to other players, like
Yes.
mainly like venom tokens or something. It's like, how does this even thematically make sense? Like,
I take those
yep.
out. I don't
Sorry
use
guys,
tokens.
my snake escaped my zoo, went over
Yeah.
to your zoo and bit your people. Like it's
Yeah.
at least in Terraforming Mars, like you could play a meteor and it would affect someone. It's like, well, that makes sense. We're on the same planet. Or,
Right.
but even then, those cards, it feels like that they were put in here just for the sake of like, oh, we have no interaction. Let's force something in here. They're so stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
so if I play this with the expansion again and get it to the table, it deserves to be higher than this. Um, it's just one of those that just fell just because it's right now it's just hard to get
yeah.
because it's such a table hog. It's such a
Since you
process.
like, yeah, since you like the action selection system of this game, the expansion is even better because you get to start with different types of
Yeah,
cards
yeah, that's why I
than
put
other
it and
players.
stuff. So
And I
so
think
yeah.
that's really cool too. But yeah, this game, and it's so funny because the components for the game are actually pretty bad, or at least they look bad. They're completely functional.
Yeah.
Um, but and I think that attributes to how great this game is because it's not. I would never really call this game a looker. I think looking at this on the table, yeah, clearly they're playing on a circular table and making do, but this just looks like a throw up on on the table. I would never see this at a convention and be like, "Oh, what's it doesn't have table presence, but man, the gameplay is just so good." And the
Yep.
fact that they've released maps, so the maps play different. Um, and I think, oh man, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty do the animals don't have facts about them, do they, on the
No, I don't
cards?
believe
I didn't
so.
think so.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish they had was, hey, like, especially because these are real, like animals and stuff. It's like I would like to know some fun facts about them,
Just get an
but
ultra fine Sharpie and just go to town.
yeah, and actually do my own, do all depressing ones. Oh, the Siberian
Yeah.
or the Bengal tiger. There's three of them left on this earth. Can we start killing human beings,
Yeah.
please?
Yes, exactly. But anyway,
Yeah,
that's my number 67, Arc Nova. Hopefully it'll rise next year.
nice. My number 66 is new to the list and a game that I really need you to try because I think this one would be right up your alley with how much you love deck builders. This one was actually sent to me as a prototype, and when I played it with my friends up where I used to live, um, he didn't back many games, but he backed this and got rid of Dominion because this completely replaced it for him, and that is
Yeah.
Chemical Overload.
Yeah, I really want to get this one.
Um, it's just so good. And whenever I had played the prototype, I was like, man, this feels pretty much done. Like they and when because we liked it so much, we were following their crowdfunding and they barely made their goal. And I was like, watch the game I really like, they're not actually going to fund, but other shitty games make millions. But they did fund and they're actually working on an expansion already. This one, like one artwork is just stunning for what this is. Like the potions that they've done are super creative for this game. Um, but before I mention that, the theme of this is that you are creating potions, and how you do that is there are just three different types of chemicals, and there's red, blue, and green, and you need different variations of that to create certain potions. And there are uh different levels of those potions, ranging from two, I believe, all the way to two, three, four, yeah, all the way to six. So whenever you're creating those potions, one, you need a flask to be able to do that, and then you need the potion ingredients, and then you discard all those, and then you get your potion. Um, it's also a tableau style game because there's certain types of potions that get played out in a tableau to trigger off their effects. There's a bunch of just different combinations of strategies. And what they do, kind of the same way Dominion does or other games, it's like, hey, what kind of game do you want? And then do you want a high scoring game? Okay, we'll put these potions out. And I really like that because that helps just, I mean, you can always do it randomly, but I like picking a theme of your game and then you put out those potions that are gonna attribute to that theme. Um, but the potions just look, they're so colorful, so creative. The effects that they are, or that they have are also extremely creative. Like one of them could just be a set collection, which each one that you make, however many you have by the end of the game, is going to be victory points. One is whenever you play it, you put a coin on it or something, and for each coin it has is worth a victory point at the end of the game. Others will let you draw cards, but what's even more amazing with this one is that whenever you buy cards or buy potions or make potions, it goes on top of your deck.
There you go.
So you're guaranteed to you're guaranteed to get to use the thing that you're doing. And you get a ton of free actions. So you only have a certain number of actual actions, but you can really extend that out on your turn. Um, so there are times where it's like, oh, like playing potions is free. So if you have a card that lets you, like a potion lets you draw cards, you can create a potion, put it on top of your deck, play that potion that lets you draw cards, and then you get the card that you just created to do that, and you get a ton of really cool combos. Um, so yeah, I I absolutely love this game. It's a deck builder that just kind of does a lot of it does a lot of familiar things, things that you would see in Dominion, for example, but fixes that deck building issue of like, boy, I really hope my combo comes in when I need it. Uh, and and yeah, like so I'm very excited that they announced a expansion, although I don't know what is it? I don't know when it's gonna be. I think it's going on crowdfunding, but it's called Entropy.
I was gonna say, whenever you know it's coming out, let me know, and I'll just nab it at that point.
Yeah, the first full-size expansion. Um, so it looks like it's introducing level 7 potions. Oh, action tokens. Thank God. That was one thing I wish that they had in this one because there'd be times where I'd be like, wait, how many actions have I done? Because you do so much stuff that it's like, okay, what legitimate actions have I done? Um, yeah, four new. Oh, and what's also kind of neat is over on the left, there's that toxin tracker that when you
Yeah.
make certain potions, it ticks that up. And once it hits a new level, like 1, 2, you draw an event, and that event could be good or bad for players depending on which level it is. Just, I mean, it's never anything detrimental. It's never like remove all potions from your deck or something shitty like that. But it throws a wrench in things sometimes. This could be good. Uh, but that I like that element in this instead of just the pure deck builder. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess the expansion says adds 500 new cards, which,
Jesus.
yeah, I mean, new level 7 potions, 40 new potions for the levels 2 through 6. Um, Probably not a storage solution
Is
because
this exclusively competitive?
there is a solo variant.
Okay, good.
Yep. And from what I remember, from what I had demoed, because I haven't tried it since I got the game, it was pretty good.
Good.
Like, so yeah, this one, I mean, they for a game for a company that I don't believe has made anything prior to this one. Well, it's Rebirth Games. Nope, that's it. I think they knocked out of the park for a deck builder tableau builder game, and the artwork is just awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll
So yeah,
definitely nab it when it comes out.
yeah, that's my 66 Chemical Overload.
All right, my number 66, again, following this trend, it seems, of falling because it hasn't been played, is a game that was 37 last year. Um, and I think what I need to do with this game is get the expansion just to kind of liven it up again because I haven't picked up the expansion yet. And I know there's another one announced that already, so I'm probably just going to pick both those expansions up at the same time when they come out. And that is Heat, Pedal to the
Ooh,
Metal.
nice.
Yeah, so I don't have the Heavy Rain, and I know that they announced that next one at some point will be coming out. Um, but this one was, well, this is the one that kind of killed. This is the racing game I have now. Like it killed
Yeah.
Downforce is kind of dead, even though they're different kinds of games. But this one I love the card system in this one too, kind of like the whole deck building aspect, and
Hmm.
stuff, and maintaining your car speed and doing all this stuff. I I've only really ever messed with this with that solo mode too whenever I've played it. And it's brutal. Like it's hard to win on
It
that.
is very hard. Yeah.
so so
I'm
it's like,
actually amazed this isn't higher because it's solo mode. I think is so good.
oh, it's good. It's just
Yeah.
I just haven't played it. Like that,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like a lot of these games in this section mainly of all the other sections, this is the section that really gets hit with the have not played deal. Most of the other
Gotcha.
ones are pretty solid. It's just this one's, yeah, that was just one of those that just didn't get played a whole lot, and it's just other stuff kind of bumped it out.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, this one's, it's got its multiple maps, um, and you run your car around and just try to win. You got to watch out for your. I mean, it has all the intricacies of drafting and taking your corners the right speed and doing all this
Hmm.
craziness. Uh, and then there's all the little module expansions and stuff that you can choose to
Yeah.
throw in or not that I
And
really
those are
haven't messed
great
with a
too.
ton. Yeah, I need to.
Yeah.
I just need to play this more. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's kind of
The
the
weather module is awesome depending on the weather. It makes certain turns like more difficult or easier. The garage module is really where you can draft unique cards where it's like, oh, this card is either value 2 or 4 because it's brakes. So if you draw it, you can be like, oh, I don't need to, I can let up on the brakes.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, the one thing about this game is I feel like Days of Wonder just kind of their release for it is very weird.
Yeah,
It
yeah, because it took me forever to get this game. Like you would have thought with it being their hot release, they would have been prepared, but it's like they didn't make their print run initially was small.
Yeah, I think Days of Wonder was just burned by so many big games like
Mhm.
that like I mean they weren't relevant for a while, so they just kind of were like, ah, this probably isn't gonna do that well, and then it did. So, but then I think they have like a designer diary or something where they've announced that they have like 6 to 8 expansions or something on the docket to release. But because like the expansion, I brought this up whenever we played World Wonders Mundo, and
Mhm.
then there was also the Heavy Rain, where it's like these expansions just feel odd because the Heavy Rain expansion is good, like and then it gives more racers and more tracks, but those tracks have abilities on them that can't, they're not backwards compatible.
Right.
So it's like, well, I'd like the rain effects to be implemented on other tracks. That'd be cool. Or one of them specifically helped out like the bots. I don't know. It's just it's a weird release um schedule and they're weird. It just feels like they had stuff and then they just decided to chop it up to
Yeah.
pace them out, which they mentioned was to help consumers. Like instead of releasing a $60 expansion, they release three $20 expansions.
They need to
I don't
release it
know.
more frequently then, because I mean
Yeah,
they're releasing an expansion a year. I mean, if they already have
I
it
think it
done,
is going to be a year, like
yeah,
one a year.
yeah. So
But I don't know. I mean, again, the Heavy Rain expansion is good. This game is phenomenal. Um, but I mean, we know it's not going to fit in the base box. Like, so
3D
it's
printer, here we go.
yeah, yeah. Just gotta, we gotta wait 8 years,
Yeah, exactly.
um, for it all to come out.
Yep. So anyway, that's my 66. I'm assuming it'll probably bounce back up. It's going to those. It's going to yo-yo probably for a little bit.
Yeah.
But
All
all right.
right. Nice. Good choice. My number 65. This one is my biggest drop of this segment. This was 38 last year and 21 the year before. And similar to how you talked about these past two games. It's just I haven't played it. These games are getting increasingly more difficult to play. Just because I can never get like a large group together, and that is Rising Sun. So, like 2 years ago, it was, yeah, whenever it was 21, I think the year before it was even higher because I had played a full player game of this and it was amazing. So, depending on if I can ever get these games played, it'll just skyrocket. But I imagine this one will always just be in my top 100. I, I'm trying to see if Okay. Yeah, I was trying to see if the other one, Blood Rage, was higher or lower on my list, and we'll see if it is, because I don't really want to I don't really want to scour through my top 100 right now. Um, but this game just has so many things going for it for me. I love the negotiation aspect where you really want even player counts with this, 4 or 6 because there's a specific phase that's a negotiation phase that allows you to team up with another person. So whenever you're picking your actions, each action has a primary and secondary action that if you're partnered with someone will give you both the secondary. And I think that's awesome. One thing about this game is that each age you have these little flags that denote where the battle is happening. So you're able to prepare and decide which battle is going to be more important to you. On top of the fact that your faction is going to have a completely unique ability, which I don't know, which do you prefer? Do you prefer to have an ability right out the gate like this one, or do you prefer to have something that you kind of build uniqueness like Blood Rage?
Oh, geez, that's a question. Because I mean, a lot of it just depends, I guess, on the length of game and the theme of the game. I mean,
Yeah,
because I like it both ways. I mean, I love how Blood Rage does it.
right.
You can choose your deal by through your card,
Hmm.
drafting and stuff. But I also can see liking the other way too. It just depends. Yeah,
Yeah.
just depends on the game.
Yeah, no, I agree. Every time I think compared this one and Blood Rage, I'm like, man, I don't know which one I prefer. Um, but this one kind of has a little bit of both anyway, because you're able to get cards, uh, like season cards that allow you to have unique abilities as well on top of the unique monsters similar to Blood Rage. But I won this theme. This really does it for me. I love feudal Japan, mystical feudal Japan, like really right up my alley. Uh, and I don't care what the fuck Dice Tower says whenever they say this game has no negotiation. That just means they're bad players. Like it's like okay, you guys don't like that makes that'd be like if I'm playing diplomacy, I'm like that's not a negotiation game because I don't negotiate with anyone. Like that's such a stupid fucking concept to me. It's like there's a specific phase and it is right from the get-go. But if you just want to play like a true war game and just stick to yourself, then yeah, you're not negotiating. Um, it's as much negotiation I think as TI has. So how much you're willing to put in or how much leverage you have each game. But every negotiation war game like this or like TI eventually revolves down to if I want to win, I can't negotiate with anyone, or no one's willing to negotiate with me if I'm winning.
Yeah,
Um,
I actually get that comparison now. Since I finally played TI4.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, at the very beginning of the game or in the middle, you're negotiating like crazy, but at some point, people will stop negotiating. Um, and that's perfectly fine. But this one, yeah, love the abilities, love the card play, love the battle system, which is really cool based off money like how much money you're willing to bid for each section of whether you want to kill our people off before and get rewards for that or and like if you kill your people off then you can like write songs about them or poems and that'll reward you for it. It I mean this one is just amazing for when you can get a really solid group.
Right.
Um so I mean it fell mainly because I have to schedule these games pretty much if I ever want to get them played. Because this obviously doesn't work well at 2 or 3, which is my usual player count is 2 or 3. But yeah, that's my number 65, Rising Sun.
All right. My number 65 also fell, but it didn't fall nearly as far as the other ones. It was 52. last year, so it fell just a little bit. And it's probably just because, you know, on this list of all these games, this is probably the one I want to get to the table the most that I haven't
Oh,
for quite a while. And it this is the one I've complained to you about on multiple occasions, that the legendary edition does not fit the fucking expansion that came out. That drives me so crazy. I'm currently looking for a storage solution for printing, but that is Maximum Apocalypse
oh,
Legendary Edition. They came out with the Wasted Wilds expansion, and I'm just like, it just doesn't fit. There's no way. There's no way. So
and there's no 3D printed insert, huh?
well, no. I'm looking. I think I
Oh,
found one that might work. So I'm
gotcha.
I'm got to do a little more research. But yeah, so this game is just a blast for me. It's just such a uh not tongue in cheek, but it's just kind of just like a chill, like just a fun game. A
Hmm.
fun. The world's ended. You choose what the hell you're dealing with, whether it's kaiju or whatever the hell, bugs, zombies, whatever, and you choose a survivor that has their own deck, and you go around this. The map is randomly generated every time, and you are exploring different cards as you go through. They do different things. Um, all the while, you're pretty much trying to find gas and get to the van. I mean, that's pretty much the gist on them. But the legendary edition adds a lot of cool tokens with it and stuff, and the miniatures are neat. But uh, yeah, and then the Wasted Wilds, I don't have as much experience with, but it brings climate into it, and it makes it a lot more difficult, even I think.
It
Um,
adds two like mini campaigns.
yeah,
There's like the frozen wastes and the desert.
yeah,
Um, that kind of I don't believe that they like in terms of campaign, it's not like things carry over, but it is like narrative, um, like a narrative campaign and gets
yes,
progressively more difficult. Because one thing that made this game amazing was it wasn't just zombies. It was every apocalyptic scenario you could think of that each thing had multiple objective cards.
yeah. There's bugs, dinosaurs, gothic horrors, kaiju, among other things.
Cthulhu.
Yeah, there's stuff that came in the yeah. So I mean, there's a bunch of stuff, but this was just it's just such a just a fun Ameritrash
Hmm.
game. I mean, you're just going through, and the art is, so it's some people may like it, some don't. I like it, you
I do
know.
too.
But yeah, I mean, this is just a blast to play, and I really, really want to get this played again. Like, this is one of my most want to get to the table games right now, just to get it played another time. But uh,
Yeah,
but yeah. Anyway, I don't know if you haven't talked about this yet, have you? I don't even know if you
I
will,
have
but
I have not.
okay, I wasn't sure, but yeah. I mean, this one's just a fun game, and this was another one of those that came out and you look at the box cover, you look at this, and it's like you're scrolling through Miniature Market or whatever, and it's like that kind of looks dumb. It's like I'm not, you know, like it
Hmm.
doesn't drag you into it by the box cover necessarily, but the Maximum Apocalypse and all this stuff. But then you kind of I sit down and kind of just look through a little bit, and it ended up turning into a really solid game.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and the expansions that they do have for it, I think, are super solid. And one thing that, because I played a friend's copy at a game day one time, and just having so many characters that have their own unique deck is kind of what
uh,
sold it for me. And the tons of different types of scenarios you can pick. I mean, if you did want to do zombies, then they have like five or six scenarios
Handful.
you pick from zombies ranging
Yep.
in difficulty. And I think that's just enough because they tout this game as a roguelike. And I think with that name, uh, this one pretty much hits that without all the horrible aspects of a roguelike that some games try to do. Um,
And
so
it's
yeah,
very soloable too. If you're
yeah,
a solo player, I mean, I run it two-handed solo,
nice.
and it's a good one.
Yeah. This one's great. I agree. All right. My number 64 fell as well. It was 48 last year and 32 the year before. Um, and I don't know where this one is going to sit, honestly, because it's easy. It's easy enough to get to the table because it's only a two-player game. But every time I have to like play it, I always have to relearn it. And it's such a bear to set up, but man, is its theme. Its theme is honestly the best, and that is War of the Ring.
Yes, you were supposed to teach this to me
I
like a
know.
year or two ago.
It's just, and I very much can. Like,
Yeah.
luckily, I've played this enough that it's really just a refresher of a rule book. But I think the biggest issue with it, honestly, is whenever I teach it to you, and if we're playing with any of the expansions, like you have five player raids in front of you. And that's so annoying. And I even tried looking through Board Game Geek for a forum of someone who had condensed all that, and I just could not. There was nothing that I saw. So it's like, really, no one's made like someone's done a condensed color coordinated Battlestar Galactica rulebook, but no one's done it for this. Um, but I mean, if you want Lord of the Rings, this is the game for you, 1,000,000%. I know a lot of people would take the Star Wars Rebellion and be like, "Oh, it's Star Wars in a box." It's the exact same thing here. It's Lord of the Rings in a box, but a kind of a what if scenario. Because with expansions and stuff, you can have like the Balrog leave Moria, but it's very hyper specific on how it can do that. You can have the tree ants, or like Treebeard, the tree ants, the Ents, leave Fangorn Forest and go help in the war against the dwarves, help the dwarves fight. You could have the spiders escape and go attack the Shire. It's just this big, like, just goon session of Lord of the Rings that you're just edging the whole time because it's amazing. Um, I was like, what the hell is this?
Looks like they have some like
That's definitely more of the
terrain and
ring,
stuff.
but man, they have something on there.
They're like
Um,
terrain put in there or something.
yeah. One thing I've been very, very close one time to buying the collector's edition. Someone had it for like 2 grand at one point. Um, and I think they've actually announced.
Well, it's been going right. It just was going like the last week or two. They had new versions of because there's a new expansion and stuff
Yeah.
and stuff.
Um, and I have no interest in the card game at all, where it's like team based or something. It's like I'll just stick with the two-player miniatures game. But I mean the card play on your turn whenever because you have two different decks that are kind of like it's your combat deck and then your other deck that both sides have different goals. Well, both sides they have two different goals. One on each side is to control a number of strongholds. The shadow player needs to get 10 points. The free peoples need to get 4. Um, and then the other one is Sauron is trying to corrupt uh the Fellowship or Frodo, and Frodo's trying to get to Mount Doom and drop the ring. So it's yeah, just depending on which one is gonna work best for you as the game is going on. But I I mean, whenever I do am playing this game, even though it's at 64 and it fell, it's just like it's just amazing. Especially you play the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, which is the best soundtrack ever made, and it's so good. The the other element of this game with the expansions, the new expansion, the Kings of Middle Earth, I think I need to play a little bit more, but I wasn't like the biggest fan of it. It didn't really do a whole lot for me, but this game introduces characters that have their own unique rules to them. If you want to utilize them, like if you want to utilize Saruman or Legolas and help, like they have specific things that they can do to help each side. There's also the politics track because some factions do not start off at war, so you have to get them at war to be able to effectively use them. I know a lot of people don't like that. They like the Battle of Five Armies where everyone's just fighting, but I love that politics track. I think it makes the most sense. Um, and then the Hunt for the Ring. the hidden movement game, you can actually tie in to this one, which I think is just a really cool element of that game. So so yeah, this also the way this game works is kind of interesting to me because it your actions are random, but what you do is on your turn you roll all your dice available, and those are the actions that you get to do. And if anything's gonna do a random action selection, I prefer it that way instead of being like, oh, here's what I want to do. Now let's hope that randomness lets me do it.
Right.
Um, I can swallow this version way better, being like, oh, I really want to attack. Let's see if I can do it. And it's like, oh, I didn't get it. Let's see what I can utilize now. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious on what the fuck this board is though. Like this look, it definitely has a lot of 3D elements though.
Yeah. It could be one of the ritzier versions too, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't
Like,
know.
yeah, that's actually pretty fascinating. One thing I need to do though for this is that a lot of the miniatures look the same. How you tell the different free peoples apart are kind of like a small emblem on their shield. But I think some people have either painted their bases because, oh, hey, if you're up in Bree, these are the Northmen are brown or whatever they are. I think I might do that because at a glance, it's very difficult to tell who's who.
You could almost, if you could find the right size, you know how Simon has those color things that go on the bottom of that you click onto
Oh,
your
yeah,
faces. That would be a quick way to do it too if you've had
that's
the right
true.
size. I mean, you have to find the right size and all, but
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
the other cool thing about this game is if you're playing the free peoples, when their units die, they get removed from the game. So there's less and less free peoples. And the shadow people, when they die, they just come. I mean, they're unlimited. So that's a
yeah,
really cool, kind of like how Stronghold was.
yeah.
Um, I always like that aspect where the good guys have their back pressed against the wall, and that just really sets the mood. But yeah, Lord of the Rings, the game, it's amazing. I love it. And that's my 64.
All right, I will play it eventually. All right, or I'll just play Duel for Middle Earth and call it good. Uh, so
Oh yeah.
anyway, my number 64 is the first game on this list that's actually rising.
Nice.
And it's went up 5 spots. And I don't know why, other than I played it a lot before a newer version of this game came out. Um, so I don't expect this one will stay on the list much because the newer version of this game I love a lot more. And this is a 15-year-old game
Oh
called
jeez.
Defenders of the Realm.
Oh, nice.
I played this a few times prior to Freedom 5 coming out, just because, and I know there was a new version of this that Greater Than Games was trying to put out, but I don't know how popular it really went because it was super freaking
Did it
expensive.
did it even go on crowdfunding? I thought it got delayed or something.
Well, I don't know. I just remember because I didn't give it two chances. I don't know what happened with it. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I just know people
Okay.
were throwing a fit because it was outrageously cost,
Okay.
and stuff. And this is still in my mind, the best version of it, just because I like the art of this one a lot better than I
Hmm.
like than that newer version's art. Now the board's going to look better on the new one because the board on this one's kind of. I mean, this is a date. It's a dated game. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not. It's dated. It's but this is that it uses kind of that like pandemic style type thing where if a certain amount of the henchmen get on a spot, they spread taint and
Yeah.
all this crap, and you're trying to defend Monarch City in the middle of the board as the the captains and their minions are moving towards. Um, if you have a lot of the heroes, all the heroes are really neat when you have them, and there's a lot of dice in this game. You're rolling fistfuls of dice at times when you're trying to do stuff. Um, but then Freedom 5 came out, and it's not a huge amount of dice necessarily. I mean, they've streamlined it enough and everything with Freedom Five that it's kind of this style of game. Freedom Five is going to be what I play, and I think
Yeah.
that's what's going to kind of push this off. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you like the fantasy theme better, though, I mean, look into whenever that new project is happening or whatever.
Yeah, I was trying to find info on it. I think it's delayed.
I thought it was supposed to start like a month or two ago,
Yeah, I
but
think it was too. But
maybe they're
um
restructuring their price because man, they got some heat on those prices when they did the preview page. It was kind of crazy.
yeah, Defenders of the Realm campaign relaunching in 2025.
Okay, because I it
So,
was
oh,
going to be
price
like,
point. We what was the reasons for relaunch? Price point. It's the number
yeah, because it was
one.
nuts. Like to get everything for the game was going to be like $400 or
Oh
something like that.
God.
It was nuts. Like to get all the, it was just like, nope, I'll just keep my old version. And then Freedom Five came
Yeah.
out, and I was like, yep, I'll just Freedom Five's kind of that game, and I'll just keep this on the back burner in case I want a fantasy version.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this one, and then if you get the dragons expansion, it makes it brutal as hell because the dragons are
Hmm.
tough as nails. But yeah, I mean, this one, if you like that classic D&D, you like the D&D art, um, this is a good cooperative game to play with friends and just not take it too seriously. I mean, it's just kind of a fun little game to
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, I agree. I think this one's a good time. All right. My number 63, Rose. This one it was 152 last year. So it like really skyrocketed up and it wasn't on the list the year before. So I guess technically this is new to the list because it hasn't been on it before. And this game that you and I played, we had played it for the first time together, and then some more expansions came out. This theme I find incredibly depressing, but I believe I could just be talking out my ass here, but I believe that they either donate to conservation projects for each funding, or maybe I just wish they did, but that is
Okay, I know.
endangered. I feel like they do. Yeah, I
I
think
think
because
so.
they had their um, I think their Penguin expansion mentioned something about that.
Well,
That
and it was in the rule books, like in the back or one of the
yeah,
pamphlets or something in the game. It was talking about it or something.
either they donate a portion of the proceeds, or they drew attention to conservation, which is admirable. I think a lot of these companies could really do more of that. But in terms of a game, this one is it's scenario based. You pick kind of an endangered species. Um, and I think I have everything at this point, which it could be turtles, it could be these tigers, it could be the American Red Wolves, which was their newest expansion. Um, and they're gonna have different kind of like rules centered around how you are trying to keep them um, alive and kicking. It's a pretty difficult game, but the overall gameplay I think is very, very solid. I think I mean, comparative to a bunch of other cooperative games, it doesn't really do anything new. Your your rounds are pretty structured to a lot of other co-op games, but I think this theming does things that just work for me at this point in time. Um, I like how you have these different kind of like goals, these overall objectives that you're trying to get people to help you with, um, by just pumping in more tokens onto it. You're trying to get like the USA involved or Japan and contributing to that versus can't remember what those cubes are called, but they have a threshold. Like Canada has like 14, and it's like you can either get 14 cubes on it, or they have a condition to be met that helps where you don't need as many cubes. You might just need as many, what, eight? There's eight right there. So it's like, oh, but for every I don't know, every dollar you have helps contribute towards that. And you need to get a certain number of those to help you win the game within a certain number of years. But you also will be playing action cards from your hand that'll go into slots. It's dice kind of worker placement. You need certain numbers to be able to do actions, but then if you're going to do an action that someone else has already gone to, you need to play higher dice values. Um, yeah, I mean, and then everyone has kind of like their own unique deck depending on the role that they have, and the scenario that you pick will have events that are tied to that scenario. Like the American Red Wolves one, you had to deal with hunting, people hunting them, and I'm like, cool. That's pretty neat.
Hmm.
But I don't know. Like, I just think this is an extremely solid cooperative game that, I mean, it doesn't overstay its welcome. Its gameplay is clean, and there's a ton of scenarios to play, um, that just give you that variety. So I think it warranted being on this list because every time I've played it, I'm like, yeah, this is good. This is good. Like in this one with the tigers that they're showing, you want to breed them, so you're trying to maneuver them around the board. Um, to get them onto the same spot so they breed and they don't go extinct, but their terrain is getting there. I think in this one they're suffering from deforestation,
Yes.
and so that limits the areas they can go to. So it's not like a feel good game, like if you really think about it. It's super depressing, but yeah, that's why whenever there's like those videos or these stories that come out where it's like, oh, these poachers were killed, I'm like, good. Fuck
Yeah.
those guys.
Exactly.
We're get their families next. Fuck those people. No, their families might be victims. Um, but yeah, it's like, oh yeah, the that elephant stomped a poacher to death. I'm like, awesome.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, it's I think these games really because if you want to use a platform or a medium like video games or TV to make a statement, board games can do the exact same thing. And I think this game does what it can. I mean, was it the Grand Gamers Guild? They're not the most highly esteemed publishing company, but I'm hoping that these kinds of games do come out because I know like Cascadia has depressing facts
Right.
in the back of that book. Um, so we'll see. We'll see what these types of games do. I mean, I think the nature theme really has kicked off, and especially with Wingspan and those types of games. So I
Yep.
like them, and this one's a really good co-op one.
Yeah, this was a fun one when we played it for sure. All right. My number 63 is my other new game to this list. And you have not played this yet. Um, it was actually came out in 24, so it was one of my top games of 24.
Okay.
And that is Rock Hard
Ah,
1977. Now,
I have
I need to
not.
clarify something because when we did our top games of 2024, the designer actually, Jackie Fox, actually commented
She
about
did, yeah.
about your comment saying that Joan Jett and the Blackhearts inspired them. It was the other way around, actually. Being the old guy here, the Runaways came out before Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, so
Is that
that was
true? Oh,
yes.
okay.
These guys
Okay, so
started. These guys started in 1975, and Joan Jett and the Blackhearts was 79. So
that's hilarious because I mean, mine was just a throwaway joke.
I
Like I
know it was
was,
just funny how she commented on there. And I was like, yeah, yeah.
I
I was
was
like,
like,
that was
oh
pretty
man,
funny.
does she think like I'm making fun of her band? Like I like Joan Jett.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was just funny. I thought when it was up there. So she watches this. There we go.
Right. That
But
was really cool.
yeah. So but anyway, this game is a very unique theme for me. That is one of the reasons why it hit so hard is because you are trying to accrue the most fame for your band. Like that's the victory points is fame. That's the kind of how you win. But what you're doing is you are doing all these different actions throughout a day to throughout the months of it's like for like 6 or 7 months of a year. It's like April or May to December. So you have that's how long the game is, and you're trying to become famous in that amount of time. And what you're doing here is, I mean, it doesn't really show as well in this, but your player boards are really cool because they're like amps. So like the dials
Mm,
or keep track of stuff with the dials, and your player board sits in there and everything. And it
cool.
has real paper, not real money. It has paper money that looks real. It has all these like doodles on them. It's really neat, and all
Yeah.
of them are different and stuff.
I think that was something she also commented on was the paper money because
Yeah,
she was nervous about it and ended up. I mean, it looks like if you're gonna do paper money, make it look like shitty ass stripper money.
right. And it has all these like little like it has lipstick on it. Little
Yeah,
like just different little things. It's kind of neat to just look at them
they're
each.
damp. It's like, ew.
Yeah, oh, gross. No, mine aren't damp, but but yeah. So pretty much you. And what's cool about this is you actually one of the phases in this game is you have to go to work because that's how you get money. So because you have to have money to be able to pay to do this and that and make demo tapes or
Oh, okay.
finally produce your record. But then there's going to be a time when you start getting famous enough that you're being like, nope, I'm quitting my job and I'm going music full time. And then that's where and that's where you start making your money by, you know, doing gigs and stuff like
Cool.
that. So it's a pretty, it's not a super difficult game. I mean,
Yeah.
it's and there's not a lot of spaces on there and everything, but you get these. There's a lot of uh, just different things. It's worker placement. So if you like worker placement, obviously that's stuff. And there's different things that pop up, but also there's they use this deal called candy, which is supposed to be drugs, but
Oh, okay.
it's
I was
candy
about
is
to
what
ask
they
him
call
like, what's
it.
that candy for?
No, that's the drug. So it like gives you it's something you can spend it to do extraction or stuff
Oh,
like that. Just
okay.
different stuff. It like amps you up.
Just
But
coked out of your mind.
but yeah. So there's several different musicians boards. You can choose from that slot in. They're all asymmetric, so they all
Okay.
have different abilities and stuff like that. You can hire groupies and not hire groupies. You gain them, but you hire
Yeah, they don't get paid. What are you
no, no,
talking about?
you hire like um stage people like to help with your gigs, like crew and stuff like that. So
Okay.
um but yeah, I mean this one was a really cool one. Devere, is another one of those companies I like getting stuff from. They're good with those euros and different kind of interesting themes and stuff. So
Yeah.
this one is awesome. And
Yeah.
also, side note with this, I noticed because I'm following this deal, Jackie Fox actually put out, and maybe it's still going right now. So depending on when this video goes out, um, she was raising money for the California fires, the LA
Oh,
fires and stuff. And
that's
what she
cool.
did is she has these promos that are like I think they're Jackie Fox promos for
Hmm.
characters and stuff. And she's like autographing them, and then she'll take a picture to make sure that she autographed your particular one. She'll put whatever message you want on it, and she's eBaying them, so she's raising money that way for that and stuff. So
That's really
it
cool.
was just a neat thing. I mean, she
Does she
seems
still
like
tour? Is you said it's a
no,
run?
they're
Okay.
band stuff, but she has an interesting deal because she was in that band. She's a 4-time Jeopardy champion, so she's actually won in Jeopardy, and it says she's a designer of the narrative adventure trilogy called The Adventures of the Chubby Slugs. Never heard of that,
Yeah.
but she's dabbled in stuff and
That's
she's
a
well
pretty
rounded.
impressive
So
resume from a board game designer.
right, and this is her first game from
She's like,
besides the adventures. I mean, I don't
yeah,
know what
being in
about
the
that, but
band, Jeopardy, the slug. I guess I'll just design a board game.
yeah, I guess
You
so.
know,
Yeah, and if you get a chance, check out the song Cherry Bomb. That's kind of their big one. So
wait a
you can play
minute.
this game and play their music in the background.
You can, or you can play Joan Jett in the back. No, I'm kidding.
No, I like Joe Jet too, but I was just hilarious. But anyway, that's my 63 Rock Hard 1977.
That is okay. It's the cherry bomb is the
Yeah,
cherry bomb.
yeah, that's their kind of their big hit, I think, stuff. But
Sure, Jackie is a very nice lady. I hate that song.
well, it's 1975. I mean,
It's
you
true.
weren't even. I mean, I wasn't even born in 75. I was born in
Yeah,
78, and
yeah,
but
yeah.
uh,
No, no, my mom raised me right on 60s. Well, maybe 60s might be a little bit too far back, but 70s, 80s
yeah,
for sure.
yep.
Um,
60s and 70s are what my dad always had me listen to. So,
yeah, it's but I mean, still, this genre of music is still,
uh-huh.
man, I'd say it's still some of the best.
Yep.
Um, like eventually when we do our top 10 bands, you'll talk about a bunch of the 70s bands, I imagine. I'll be a little bit more modern. Um,
Yeah,
but
we'll
even
see.
then, it's I mean, playing that's one of these things that we never really talk about where because I mean, maybe people don't listen to music when they play board games, and I understand if they don't, it could be distracting. I love finding music that fits a theme. That's why Melodice is an amazing website. But this one, you don't even have to go on Melodice. Like 70s music was just a perfect theme to play while
Yep.
playing this. And I think this is at the top of our list of games I want to play because I
Okay.
haven't tried this
Cool.
yet.
Yep. Yep. Good.
All right. My number 62. I don't think you've played this game yet, but I know um, the other group, one of the guys in there loves this one. This one was 45 last year, so and 37 the year before. NFL just because it hasn't hit the table as much. Um, but I remember seeing this by Pandasaurus at Gen Con one year and ended up picking it up, and I'm like, oh, this is a really fun, wacky co-op game, and that is the Loop. Good, it is Pandasaurus. Um, One of the second games that are actually in my top 100 that's about time travel. But funny enough, this one and a few others that you've talked about are really scenario based, where you pick a scenario and then that's kind of going to determine the rules and objectives. But in here, you have different eras of time that you're kind of trying to manage and defend because similar to Pandemic or Defenders of the Realm, there are these paradox cubes that get dropped in this little three-way split dice tower or cube tower that will fall and only certain each region can only hold a certain number of them before they get destroyed. But you'll have these objectives around the board they are trying to do before they eventually become flipped and you can't complete them anymore. Um, but the green cubes in those sections also help you do multiple actions. So you only get a certain number of actions per turn, but you can spend an increasing amount of green cubes to keep doing them. So if you were in that orange spot, to do an extra action would cost one, and then it would cost two, then four, and so on and so forth. Um, but what's really cool about this game is if you want to do like a time loop, which means you get to activate your cards again. You pick like a symbol, so that Cola Unstable has that starburst symbol. So the more of a particular type you have available, you'll get to activate more of those. So it's like, oh, I want to activate these again, then you would just keep activating those types, which is really, really fun. Because this game is kind of about efficiency. You want to be able to do more on your turn than you're originally able to, because this game will get completely out of control otherwise. Uh, and I mean, that in and of itself is pretty much it. I think that this game is relatively wacky in kind of the items you're getting and the way it goes about its scenarios is more humor based. Like, I mean, the best example I can give is kind of like if Megamind was doing time travel shit, is the overall vibe you get from it. But you have his like henchmen, which are pretty much him fucking around in time. You want to get those to where they're at, like in the green section, there's that pink token. You want to get that to the pink section to get rid of it. Otherwise, when you're dropping cubes, the more of those that are in that spot, uh, you'll drop that many red cubes. And so if you just leave them unattended, then paradoxes are just going to destroy the timeline. And they released one expansion, which basically came with new characters, and each character has their own special ability and their weird art design, but came with new scenarios. Those scenarios have specific rules to them. But kind of what they did in um, Peacemakers, they have kind of an achievement list as well. To which, I mean, in and of itself does nothing. But if you want to go achievement hunting, which I feel like a lot of board games don't do, but these kinds of games, this Peacemakers, I think are really cool games to add that. If you want to play the loop over and over again, you would be like, okay, now let's play the scenario without, I don't know what they are, but with trying to complete this achievement, to give yourself an extra objective than just winning the game, without adding in a whole bunch of extra rules or expansions and shit. I think those achievement sheets um, do a lot more for the game than than I don't know, than maybe just adding in more rules and stuff. So if you're running kind of a really fun, wacky, standalone cooperative game, The Loop just has been in my top 100 since it came out. I think this one is severely underrated, and those cards are extremely powerful. They're really cool. There's a bunch of them in there, and you're kind of deck building. I mean, not really, but whenever you're dropping, going to a small location, like if you stop in that orange spot at the end of your turn, you could take that cola in stable, which I,
Gotcha.
as I'm realizing, that's a different language,
Yeah.
like in the ability. So it's probably not actually called that, but that you could take that item card and put it into your deck, and then each round you're going to be drawing, and you'll have like these cards face up in front of you, and you can activate them. But if you want to time loop, you want to kind of set collect, which is very neat.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, my number 62, the loop.
All right. My number 62 is my other one that went up on this list, and it went from 64 to 62. So it just went up 2 spots. So this is kind of
Okay.
probably where it's going to kind of stay. It's a solo only game. It was kind of one of those that just kind of came out, and without much, you know, hype or anything. But then people started playing it and really found out it was such a good uh, solo game, and that is Under Falling Skies.
Nice.
Um, the story of this game was always funny to me because, like, this game won in 2019. It won the Print and Play award for this design contest, and it was a nine card nano game
Hmm.
is what it was based on, and then they CG kind of took it and bumped it up and turned it into this, and this is one of those. This is a very, very puzzly tight kind of solo game because you are rolling your dice and you are placing them within your bunker or your base, and then that's going to show where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing. And then you'll take out the enemy crafts as they get closer because the mothership and them start getting closer and closer. um and this is a very stressful game for a solo game, trying to get it figured because they just keep moving closer and closer, and it's just like
Yeah.
trying to make the right decision and when to get energy to do this and that and everything.
What
What
hits to take? Like
Yeah, yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah. And what was cool about this is, it could have just been a game that they put out because it wasn't an expensive game. I think it was like $24
Hmm.
or maybe 30. But then you open up the box and you have this stuff, and then underneath there's all these different scenarios, like a little campaign type thing. And
Hmm.
it's like that was just, I didn't even know it was coming with that kind of stuff, and it was pretty. You played through all the campaign. I haven't played through it yet,
Yeah.
all the
It's
way.
a short one. I think it's
Yeah,
like 4 games,
yeah. I think
I
I've only
think.
played a couple, but yeah, this one's just a really neat solo game. If you're a solo player, this is almost a must try,
Yeah.
just because of having that intensity. Because a lot of times solo games don't have that. You're just kind of going through the motions, doing stuff or whatever. But this one, like, you really feel the stress of every round
Yeah,
when you're
because I
fighting
mean,
and
you
stuff.
have you have those colored dice that only give you a certain number of re-rolls. I
Hmm.
think it's the white dice that you play. So when you play those, you get to re-roll like the dice you have remaining. Um,
Yes.
and you have to extend your base out because eventually, like what you have available is not going to be enough to get you over that research hump,
Hmm.
based off the die value. So you have to go to areas that you can place multiple dice. Um, so your attention's just divided, like it's all over the place while you're always being bombarded by different types of ships and the encroaching, where the mothership is encroaching to where the ships don't have as far to go. It's yeah, this one's super solid.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in my top 100, but it's still in my collection for sure.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you owned it or not. I knew
I
you.
do, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that's my number 62. The super good solo game.
Nice. My number 61 is a crossover actually
Oh,
within this
really?
same, yeah, within the
This
same
segment?
segment. Yep. Yep.
Well, let me look here real quick. It's not, it would, you're gonna have Arc Nova a lot higher. You're gonna have Heat a lot higher. Um, Windmill Valley. I think
No,
you've already
I
done all your new ones. So is it Apocalypse?
yep, yep,
Seriously? All
yeah.
right.
Maximum Apocalypse is my 61, which is it's funny because you said I haven't talked about it yet. Last year it was my honorable mention,
Oh,
so
okay.
it rose quite a bit. It was 101 last year and 129 the year before. Um, this is one we're playing it recently. Uh, fit into my overall what I'm wanting out of gaming nowadays is like you were just saying, it's just fun.
Yeah.
Which and it's the type of fun I'm wanting, like we've talked about with Ark Nova or Worker Placement, Windmill Valley, like those games are good. Um, but the fun I have with those is not the same fun I'm having with this. I don't get that like this is I wouldn't necessarily say high energy, but I can get more into the theme. I get to pick my apocalypse. You get to be, I mean, just from the get-go of setup, you get to be fun, where it's like, how do we want to build this board? Like, how stupid do we want to make it? How hard do we want to make it? Do we want to make it a square because then we're adjacent to a bunch of stuff, but that could be dangerous too? Um, which character do I want to be, and how is that going to synergize with all the other characters? It, I mean, the variety in this game is top notch. I did jump a little bit into the expansion. The climate stuff is good. It's brutal. The enemies are brutal. But I mean, it's cool. But yeah, like you said, the one thing I don't like for this is its storage solution.
I'll find
It's
something.
it's so bad. Um, well, because I bought someone's copy. The main issue for me is I think I have everything fitting into this, but the main issue I had was the copy I bought had sleeved cards, but they did that the like those colored sleeves where it was like red, green, purple, where it was like it was, clear on the front but solid on the back.
Matte sleeves.
And yeah. And I'm like I mean these are it's like sleeves you would do for Magic the Gathering.
Mm.
And obviously I don't know one where to get them, and two I'm not going to buy them for this expansion. So I think I ended up unsleeving everything, and now it all fits, but I'd much prefer a better storage solution. But yeah, I mean, a cooperative game that is extremely thematic, that really feels, I mean, it kind of has almost Subterra vibes
Yeah, I
where
can see that.
everyone's very helpful. Everyone has abilities that are really good. Um, but things quickly get overwhelmed. But it's also not like a busy game because you're flooding the board with those tokens that represent monsters that are there. Um, but if those ever pop off while you're on and you can't sneak through them, then you're drawing enemy cards that go in front of you and they're devastating.
Yep.
Also having to manage hunger. So you have to go out and scavenge and all that. And there's three different decks of scavenging. But yeah, I agree. This game is it's just pure fun.
Yep. Yep.
So that's my
For sure.
61.
All right. Now I will finish mine with another game that's dropped. This one again, just haven't played it a whole lot, but it is one of my wife's favorite ones to get played. So it'll bounce back up, I'm sure, because I really enjoy this game, and that is
Mm,
Rajas of the Ganges.
there it is.
Yeah. um, so Inca and Marcus Brand, they've made a few things. This was one of their earlier ones as well. Uh, this one is one of those games that was the first game that kind of had that scoring track like
Yeah.
mechanism. Because it's a pretty game on the table anyway. But
Hmm.
the thing that everybody talks about with this game is there is the wealth track, and I want to say like maybe the fame track or prosperity or
Yeah,
something. I can't
I
remember.
think so.
But they both start, and once they meet, once somebody gets those two to meet, then that's they win. That's pretty much or it's Tricker's end game.
Yeah.
But you have the river, that you're moving the boat on. There's all these different deals. You get more workers. It's you can kind of see it up here in the top corners. you actually almost have like building out your little deal as well by getting tiles and building your own little villagey kind of stuff. The dice are really neat because you're getting dice to do different stuff. This was just one of those really cool ones, and I just actually ordered the goodies boxes. There's 2 goodies box, or what they call them, and it's like little modular expansion-y kind of things that kind of fit in to this game.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm curious to see what those will add and stuff, but yeah, I mean, this was just one of those that because you can focus. That's the thing. It's like, if you want to go all wealth and all money, man, you can just go whole hog on that, and then just a little bit of that prosperity, and then try to meet them at that point, or you can go the opposite way. Now, mind you, it's probably easier to do both because the spots are going to get taken up and stuff like that as you do.
It's kind of like with Ark Nova, you could go all in on conservation. But yeah, generally doing both is going to be easier to meet in the middle.
Yeah. So yeah, this is one of those games that should be higher than this. Like if I had played it, it would probably be in the 30s or 40s still, but it just fell a little bit because I've got some bangers coming up in the next several lists that kind of moved up quite a bit. So stuff has to fall, as is the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this one kind of, I think I played this one and Concordia and Brass and all those kind of around the same time, and I think they all hit 7s for me. I'm like, yeah, these are good. Like, I don't really have any like this. I don't have any major praise for it, nor do I have any issues. I'm just like, yep, this is a Euro game.
Yeah, the other game of theirs that I just recently played was the new Village game, because they did Village this couple also.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's because you did have Village. I was like, you had another of their game on your list.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this one's just an awesome one that I will always be on my list, most likely.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. All right. Good list, sir. Well, that's it, everyone. That is our next segment. So the next one will be the last segment of the top 50. Then we really jump into some good games. Really for this, I just took random games from BGG. I've never even played these.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope you're enjoying the top 100. Stick around for the rest of it. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.